friends. Welcome to the podcast. It is episode number 5. Last week, if you were with us, on episode 4, we talked about defense mechanisms for each one of the types. And as we were kind of going through that, I was talking about narrating through some of the things that we see. I brought up one point for each of the types, and I just really love that. I got really great feedback from it. So we're gonna stay in some of the narration space, but we're gonna call it self-observation. So if you're just joining us, my name is Brandon, and welcome to the AIM and Anchor Enneagram podcast. Here we believe that if you don't know what's holding you back, how can you really move forward? This podcast is designed to be short-formed. It's still designed to be that way, even though I haven't made it to my mark other than one time. And I'm hoping that today, and I'm going to keep saying this until I do it, today's the day, you guys. Today's the day. We're going to be less than 15 minutes. I can feel it. So in that vein, we're going to just jump right in today, this week. There's a book called The Complete Enneagram, and it's from a lady named Beatrice Chestnut. And she is a very smart lady, and she defines self-observation as this. Self-observation is about creating enough internal space to really see with fresh eyes and adequate distance what you are thinking, feeling, and doing in your everyday life. So today, we're going to go through each one of the types. I'm going to pose a question or a statement, and then we're going to talk about how to observe that happen and look out for different behaviors that might happen inside each one of us. If you're just jumping in, feel free to jump back. We've got some structured stuff up at the front of the podcast, episode 1 and 2, introduction stuff, how the Enneagram kind of works, the triads, that kind of thing. If you don't know your type at all, there's one that kind of breaks down the types, but we're kind of just moving through this. So if any of these ring true to you, maybe hold on to it. That doesn't mean that this is your type or anything like that, because we all have each one of the 9 types within us, just one of them we lean heavier into than all the others. So with that being said, we're going to go backwards today. I know I'm throwing you a curveball, but we're going to start with type 9 and go through to type 1. Again, self-observation from the book, The Complete Enneagram, written by Beatrice Chestnut. I encourage you, if you're looking to dive into some more stuff, this is a great resource. Very, very well thought out. It's very big. Don't go into it thinking you're going to read through each one of the ones, but maybe you can find yours. Obviously, you can always get a hold of me, Brandon, at aimandanchorcoaching.com, or you can go to the website, aimandanchorcoaching.com, and schedule a call, and we can chat, and maybe I can help you figure out a little bit more about you and what's holding you back. All right, let's start with type 9. Here's the statement. Forgetting yourself to more easily go along with the wishes and wills of others. So our response to that is observe what happens when you or someone else asks you what you want. If you don't know, note what it's like to know and how you feel when you look for a preference and can't find one. Look out for ways you engage in passive-aggressive behavior and note any clues to what you might be angry or upset about. Okay, I'm going to read it again. The statement is forgetting yourself to more easily go along with the wishes and wills of others. When this happens, observe. Observe what happens when you or someone else asks you what you want. If you don't know, note what it's like to not know and how you feel when you look for a preference and can't find one. Look out for ways you engage in passive-aggressive behavior and note any clues to what you might be angry or upset about. So I'm a type 9, if you've been with us from the beginning of the podcast. I'm a type 9, and the idea of forgetting yourself to go along with the wills and wishes of others is called merging. That is one of the main ways that we avoid conflict as a type 9, okay? That's what we do. We avoid conflict because we believe that if we avoid conflict, our relationships will stay together. We'll continue to get the love and care that we want. And so we forget ourselves, we erase ourselves, and we merge into the other lives around us, all right? Our type 8 friends. Here's your statement, focusing on and acting from power and strength as overcompensation for denied powerlessness and weakness. Okay, the statement one more time. Focusing on and acting from power and strength as overcompensation for denied powerlessness and weakness. When this happens, observe the ways in which you take refuge in power and strength and how doing so might be a way of avoiding or compensating for not wanting to experience deeper feelings of powerlessness, weakness, or impotence. Notice when you are feeling angry and when you feel an impulse to act on it. What kinds of things make you angry and why? I know that little last question could be a big question for our type 8 friends because our 8 friends are known to overdo anger. Okay? 9s are asleep to their anger, and 1's anger comes out sideways as resentment. They view it bad. But 8s, they overdo it. Okay? So, noting what makes you angry and why is a big question, I understand, but it's an important one. So observe the ways in which you take refuge in power and strength and how doing so might be avoiding or compensating for not wanting to experience deeper feelings of powerlessness, weakness, and impotence. The work of our type 8 friends is innocence. Being vulnerable, being honest. That's scary. And again, you might be hearing some of these things and thinking, well, like, yeah, of course it's scary to be vulnerable. Yes, that is true. That is a true statement for all of us, but some of us deal with these things a little bit deeper. Our type 7 friends, here's your statement. Focusing on pleasure as a way to escape pain. I have a few type 7 friends, and unfortunately for them, theirs is so much on the surface. You can physically see them escaping. They will just vacate. They'll go to wherever the thing that is fun is, or they'll plan for a thing that is fun. And they'll talk to you about it. I'm going to get a plane ticket. I'm going to the Grand Canyon. I'm doing whatever. I'm picking on a type 7 friend of mine right now, but she knows. Focusing on pleasure as a way to escape pain. Here's what you need to observe. Observe what happens when you speed up and head toward an experience that promises to be pleasurable. Try to get clearer about your motivations when you feel driven toward a particular experience or pleasure. Ask yourself what if you might be moving forward towards fun in an effort to avoid pain or uncomfortable thoughts or feelings. Ask yourself if you might be moving forward towards fun in an effort to avoid pain or uncomfortable thoughts or feelings. I had a client meeting this week, and she was asking questions and didn't know her type, and so we were kind of going back and forth and learning about each other, and we eventually landed on, I believe, what her type probably is, and I asked her to investigate this week to kind of solidify that for herself, because that's her job. My job is just kind of give you the steps to get you closer. And once we got to a specific question, I think the question was, have you ever felt like you truly belonged? And there was a pause and like a look down and then a look back up and just an honest no. And shortly after that, she said, I feel so exposed. And that happens with this work. So if some of these are coming through and you're feeling like, I didn't realize that anybody else could see this about me, or how does this person know? I don't even know this guy, and how does he know all of the touchy points that are really soft and vulnerable? This has the tendency to do that. So if that is the case, know that is normal. Okay, our type 6 friends. Acting out of fear in different ways instead of owning it, being with it, and managing it. Again, acting out of fear in different ways instead of owning it, being with it, and managing it. So when this happens, observe and consciously notice when you see fear and anxiety motivating your behavior, and look for signs that you may be acting out your fear unconsciously rather than fully experiencing it. Note, if you feel fear and anxiety and what form it takes. Okay, so our type 6 friends, note that if you feel fear and anxiety, note what form it takes. If you don't feel fear or anxiety, look for other ways you may be expressing it. And that might very well be subconsciously. So you kind of have to be cognizant of yourself, paying attention, okay? If you don't feel fear or anxiety, look for other ways you may be expressing it. Type 5s, your statement is hoarding and withholding inner resources out of a perception of scarcity and fear of depletion. When this happens, observe your tendency to operate from the assumption that your time, your energy, and other resources are scarce. What ideas do you have that you are basing this kind of thinking on? Notice any worry you feel or thoughts that arise about not having enough energy to do the things or interact with people. What worry do you have when you think about these things? And how are you hoarding your time? I'm going to say that one again. Observe your tendency to operate from the assumption that your time, energy, and other resources are scarce. What ideas do you have that you are basing this kind of thinking on? Notice any worry you feel or thoughts that arise about not having enough energy to do things or interact with people. What worry do you have when you think about these things, and how are you hoarding your time? Type 4s. Holding on to a strong belief in your own deficiency, so much so that you close yourself off from others and from love and from goodness in the expectation of abandonment. One more time. Holding on to a strong belief in your own deficiency, so much so that you close yourself off from others and from love and from goodness in the expectation of abandonment. When this happens, observe your tendency to engage in intense self-criticism and even self-loathing. What kinds of thoughts and beliefs do you have about yourself? What kinds of things do you tell yourself about yourself on a regular basis? Our type 3 friends, the statement is short and sweet and efficient, just like they like it. Doing without stopping to avoid feeling. When this happens, observe the pace at which you work and the ways you try to keep moving and avoiding to slow down. Notice when you speed up your activity level and what might be happening that drives that intensification of doing, air quotes. Noticing what you do to avoid having any gaps in your schedule that might allow feelings to surface, and note any anxiety you feel if you have an inadvertent gap in activity. My type 2 friends, your statement is denying needs, your needs, and repressing feelings, your feelings, as a way to connect more easily with others. Denying your needs and repressing your feelings as a way to connect with more easily with others. When this happens, it can be difficult for the two to observe something that isn't there. That's what Beatrice says in the book. It's hard. It can be hard to observe something that isn't there, but it is. They just believe that they don't have wants or needs. It's important, though, for 2s to see how they avoid registering their own needs and feelings. This means noticing when you don't know what you are feeling or needing, and keeping an eye out for what happens when repressed feelings and needs do arise. Observe what happens when someone asks the simple question, "What do you need?" or "What are you feeling?" This is really interesting to me because our type 2 friends can know what other people in the room or around them are feeling before they do. But they don't know what they're feeling or what they want if they haven't done the work. For my type 2 friends, ask this of yourself regularly. What do I need and what am I feeling? Last but not least, our type 1 friends. Your statement is measuring everything against an ideal standard and driving for perfection in yourself, others, and or the external environment through the operation of an inner critic. If you're type 1 or you don't know you're type 1, the inner critic is a loud, loud, loud voice. When this happens, observe the pattern that includes continually criticizing yourself and being judgmental of others. Ones generally apply their standards of what is virtuous or correct internally and externally. This can lead to heavy worry, procrastination, and a constant critique of themselves. This then leads to efforts to improve, harsh criticism despite these efforts, and renewed efforts at improvement in light of that criticism. Friends, it's been really fun. We're going to continue this, I guess you can call it a series. I don't know if we call it a series, but we're going to continue in the self-observation vein next week, and I've got another question or statement for you and how to observe. My goal is to help walk us through learning more about ourselves. The more we know about ourselves, the better. Well, it's been great. My name is Brandon. You can always find me on the internet somewhere at Anchor Coaching on Instagram and Facebook. Email me, brandon@aimandanchorcoaching.com, or head over to the website, aimandanchorcoaching.com. Have a great week. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.